Hello, this video is brought to you by Communications Performance Covert. In this video, we're going to take apart the so-called indictment on Marilyn Mosby. We're going to prove that this indictment is fraudulently conveyed, says nothing, charges her with nothing. As a matter of fact, I would also say that she is not even joined to this indictment based on the text of the indictment, okay? And I know that those things may seem strange to some of you, but we're gonna prove it, all right? So let's get right into it. As you can see on your screen, you see that, let me make sure that this is officially up on the screen. Okay, so as you see on your screen, this is the indictment, so-called indictment. And we'll get into that as far as what I mean by so-called indictment, because I don't see any heading that says indictment. And I know for some of you, you may think you see a heading that says indictment, but I'm going to show you that that's not what it says. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, one of the things that I see here starting up top is that this particular formulation right here is void, right? It is void because they're using abbreviations and there's no closure given. As far as I know, there's no closure given by the U.S. Attorney for these abbreviations, right? Now, here, some people may think that this is a date, but that's not a date, right? Because there's three abbreviations right here. And so right here, you have three words. And then on top of that, this one is separated with a space from this three. And I can say that because if you look here, 2022 is together, right? So here, this is not a word. This here is three words, right? These are abbreviations. They're called acronyms. And each acronym stands for or represents, well, let's not use that word represent, but it means a word, right? Each acronym means or stands for a word. So as we can see here, these are also abbreviations, right? Or properly put, initialisms, but they're still acronyms, and each acronym or initialism means or represents a word. We don't know what these words means or represent, so we have to void this. This is void for vagueness. Now, if we look here, most people may think that this is the name of a court, but there's no court name here, right? If you look here, most people may think that this is a venue, right? They're declaring the venue, but this is, let me see here. This right here, right? These particular formulation of acronyms are actually 26 words, and this particular formulation of abbreviations are actually 30 words, right? Some people may think that these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words right here, but they're not. They're 30 words. And most people may think that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words right here, or if we count this, 6 words, but they're not, right? We're looking at 26 words, right? We don't know what this means. There's no closure for that. So this is void for vagueness, right? Let's go back to the other one. It's a little bit more clear. Let me expand this a little bit for you. You can actually see. Okay. So everything up here is void for vagueness. We have no closure or finite mean on what these words mean or represent, right? So there's everything up here is void for vagueness, everything, right? Including that, well, not this, but this is irrelevant, so we can ignore that. But as far as you know, the body of the document or the important information of the document, everything up here is void, including this. There's no date here, so there's no date stamped on here, right? These acronyms, JAN stands for 3 words, and we have no closure on what those 3 words are. So we have to void this for vagueness. The first rule of contract or filing a suit is knowledge. And I guarantee you that this attorney cannot tell us what each of these acronym means or represents, right? So we have to void them. Okay, let's go on to the next thing on the agenda here. So here, most people would think that, you know, this represents the parties, and this is talking about case number and charges. They are wrong. Reason why I say that is because here, this does not say the United States of America. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. If I count this correctly, there are 21 words here, right? We don't know what these abbreviation means or represent, so we must void them. This is, first of all, let me define what an acronym is, right? A acronym. Now, an acronym means no men name. Hope you can see that. Let me make this a little bit clearer. So an acronym means no men name, right? And what's the parse of the word name? Name is made up of 2 words, N-A, nay, and me. So here we say NA equals, the synonym for nay is no. And the synonym for me is men. So name means no men. So you got no men name, or you could say no men, no men. But anyway, if we look at this, we see that this is not the woman, warm blood woman, Marilyn Mosby. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons, other than what I've just explained, is because of this. That is not her full legal name. That is not included in her full legal name. I don't even know if that initial is actually her middle initial, right, representing her name. But even if it is, you must write the individual or the woman, in this case, you must write her name, her full legal name in this indictment, in this lawsuit, in this criminal complaint, etc. So this, we don't know what these acronym means or represent, so that's void for vagueness. Most individuals think that when you're dealing with legal documentation, the first analysis that you must give is based on law, but actually that is incorrect. The first analysis you must give is based on the textual schematic of the document, right? Linguistics, right? That's the underlying foundation of any document or contract. And in my view, this is a contract. It is a void contract, if we want to be specific. So if we look at this particular word, right, defendant, D is a negative prefix, and the synonym for negative or negation is no. So what an FEN means guard, ANT is contract. So what this really says is no guard contract. I believe that's prejudicial. So one of the most important things is the information, the content here is in a box. What's in a box cannot be considered, right? Because what's in here has no joinder to what's out here, right? It has no joinder to what's out here. It's just in the box, four corner rule. So just the fact that you have content in a box that's separated and cannot join the text that's on the paper, void this entire thing. But let's look at it from the perspective if we're reading at a second grade level. If you're reading at a second grade level, you actually think that the information in the box is pertinent to the text outside of the box, which is wrong. So let's look here, right? This says criminal. Actually, we're not even supposed to be, doing anything with the content inside of the box because it's void as far as the rest of the text, the body of the text of the document is concerned. But, just so people can have comprehension and stay with what I'm doing, I'm going to do that. But generally, we don't even engage anything that's inside of the box because it has nothing to do with the body of the text of the document. This is advertising, right? So here we see that it says criminal, no, and then it has a period, right? A period is a full stop. That means that what's here is not connected to what's over here, right? So this is by itself, and this is by itself. So, and then on top of that, we have this separation, but we also have criminal, and then the word no, and then a period. Criminal, no, period, right? So there's no case number here. It says criminal, no, period. If you think that this says criminal number, then you're reading at a second grade reading level. This right here is acronyms, and we don't know what this means, so we would just void this anyway, right? You got three acronyms here, and then you got a couple of things over here. Two numeric digits here, and I think that I don't know what this is, right? So since it's joined together, if I was going to syntax this would be in the syntax position of a pronoun. And then we have a numeric digit here. So this entire thing is void. So there's no case number here. This says criminal, no. Full stop where the period is. And if you have a period in front, if you have a period after a word, we know that that period ends whatever the formulation of words behind it is, right? So there's a separation here because of this full stop period. So let me erase this so you can see. There's a period, right? Period is right here. And so that period creates a separation between what's over here and what's over here, right? So let's look at this. So here you have parentheses. The parentheses, what the parentheses does is make everything between the parentheses into comment, right? It is just commentary. It has nothing to do with the text on the paper. So for all intents and purposes, even if it wasn't in a box, we can remove this from the paper because it has no use as far as the authority or meaning of the text, right? So everything up here is void. And if you think anything up here makes any sense, right, such as these formulations of abbreviations, you may think that these are words. No, they are not words. If you read initialisms as words, because they're acronyms, you are reading and writing at a second grade reading level. I don't care what degree you have. You can have a PhD, you can have graduated from MIT, you could be Barack Hussein Obama, you could be Johnny Cochran, come back from the dead. If you're reading initialisms as if they are words, you are reading and writing at a second grade reading level, and that violates correct parsing, syntax, grammar, punctuation. So let's go down. This word, well, I'm sorry, this formulation of letters, this is not the word indictment. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This represents 10 words. Therefore, we have no idea what the what the finite closure, or in plain English or legalese, we would say definition, but DE is a negative prefix, which means no, right? It is a negation. The synonym for negative is negation, right? And the synonym for negation is no. So basically this says no finition, right? No finite contract, right? So there's no heading or title of this document. This is just, so far everything up here is void so far, right? Okay. Now we're here. Now, one of the methodologies that we engage in at Communications Performance Covert is called syntax. And syntax is the correct, it is the correct measure of the formulation of the parts of speech within a sentence structure or contract clause, anything written on paper, words on paper, right? There is a particular order or a particular sequence that must happen in your formulation of document for it to be correct. If it's not, then you're babbling, just like this. This is a babbling, makes no sense. And I'm about to show you why. Okay, so okay, so here we go. So when we syntax, we basically do an audit on the text to make sure that it's in its proper grammatical, parse, syntax, punctuation, make sure those different methodologies are correct or used in a correct fashion within the sentence structure or contract clause. So, so let me go ahead and syntax this, and then we'll discuss it. So that's one. Okay, so I've syntaxed this. Let me erase what's up here. You can have a better look. Okay. We're going to still void this. That means nothing. So here, 1 equals an adverb, 3 equals an adjective, 4 equals a pronoun, and 2 equals a verb, right? Okay, so here we can see that the attorney engaged in fraudulent conveyance. How do we know that, right? Because here, in plain English, this would be grand jury. Both of these would be nouns, but here, based on the syntax, it's in the syntax location of adjectives, right? There's no such thing as, well, actually, if we look at it, well, let me just try to give you a simple explanation. So jury, right, is supposed to be a noun, right, or fact in quantum, but here it's being represented in the syntax location as an adjective, right, which voids the words because jury is not an adjective, right? It's a noun. And then this is grand jury, which is basically a compound word, right? Both of these represents adjectives, right? So we would void both of them because the combination of these they are nouns, or it is a noun, not a adjective. And then as we move on, we see this district, right? Which is actually a negative verb, right? It's in the syntax location of a negative verb. DIS is a negative prefix, means no. So that would be voided or void. And that's a negative word. So as we move on, we see that the word Marilyn is Marilyn is a noun, but it's being represented, it's in the syntax location of an adjective, right? And here, district is in the syntax location of a verb, right? This should be a noun, but it's being used in this formulation of words as a verb, right? This is called fraudulent conveyance. When you use nouns as if they are verbs, then what you're doing is creating perjury in your documentation. This is a lie. This is a lie. This is a lie. All of these are lies. Well, let's focus on the facts or the nouns, right? So that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie. This is also a lie because Marilyn is not an adjective, right? And then you have charges, which is also another noun, but that's also an adjective. It's in the syntax location of an adjective. So as you can see here, we have one negative word, which voids the complete sentence structure, right? And then we have an adverb here. We have another adverb here. One adverb destroys your sentence structure. So this entire formulation right here is void. So let's get down to here. We have no idea what these initialism or acronym means or represents. These abbreviations are void. Void for vagueness. There's no closure on that. And this right here is simply commentary, right? This is commentary. And this means that this, because it's in parentheses, has nothing to do with any of the text on the paper, right? This is just commentary. This is just basically the author's opinion. We can void that. Furthermore, although we're not supposed to look inside of the parentheses, but for the sake of making sure people can follow me, because I understand the school system that all of us went to, you know, I will note that here he has a bunch of abbreviations as well, and we have no idea what they mean. They are not words. You read them as words. You read it at a second grade reading level. So as we continue, now here I want to point out something that's very important. That goes to, well, it goes to the heart of this document, because this formulation of words is not Marilyn Mosby's full name, right? This is a problem. She must be sued in her full legal name. That's a problem. And what's also a problem is that these abbreviations, this is not one word. This is not one word. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you got 8 right here. And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this entire formulation right here is 12 words. However, because there is a full stop here, right? We must pay attention to punctuation. Because it's a full stop right here, what happens is there's a separation right here. There's a partition, right? Period. A full stop means that it separates what's over here from what's over here. So as we can see here, this is well, really what's over here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this represents 8 words. And then what's over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, represents 5 words, but they are separated because of that full stop, right? Because of this full stop, this is by itself, and this is by itself. So we can void this, well, because this is a negative. A negative condition of state cannot be performed, right? So here, now let's erase this, and let's discuss what they're trying to do here, right? Here, where this does not say Marilyn Mosby. This is not what this says. If you think this says Marilyn Mosby, you're reading at a second grade reading level. But let's pretend it says Marilyn Mosby, right? So we're taught in school that if you put parentheses, then you put whatever, like say for instance, if this, we're pretending here, right? So let's pretend that this is Marilyn Mosby's name, right? Which it is not, let's pretend. So you will have her name, right? And when we deal with contracts, to give the name some type of abbreviation and let you know that, okay, what's over here is going to be represented with what's here. So that's basically what this is saying in plain English, right? But that's not what this really says, right? That's how we were taught. But in the hierarchy of linguistics, you would know that this is not what, this is not represented by this in the body of the document, because this is commentary, right? Because it's in parentheses, not only is it in parentheses, but it's also in quotation marks. And quotation marks and parentheses, whatever content that's between them, parentheses or quotation marks, is lifted from the paper. It's like it was not even on the paper, because it's just commentary. It has no authority to join with any text that's on the paper or in the document, right? So they want us to believe that this is Marilyn Mosby's name, which it is not, right? These are initialisms, and each initialism mean or represent a word, right? So here, not only do they want us to think that or use our conditioning, right, our social and educational conditioning to believe that this is the name of Marilyn Mosby, but they also want us to say that we're substituting this for this in the body of the document, which they are not. This, for all intents and purposes, this is not even a part of the document. So remember, when they, like here, right, this does not represent that. So already we have a bunch of acronyms, and we don't know what these acronyms mean. So this is not a substitution for this. And, we must remember that this does not say Marilyn Mosby. It would say Marilyn Mosby if you're reading it at a second grade reading level, because these are all initialisms. Whether you can pronounce it as words or not, they are still acronyms and they are not words. Each acronym means or represents a word. So this is, well, I won't even say it's alien to the text, because the whole thing is void. So, but I just want you to understand that this does not mean this, right? It cannot mean that. All right, so we void this for vagueness. This is also void because it's merely commentary, and for all intents and purposes, we could just take this off the paper, lift it from the paper, right? Pay no attention to it. It has no authority. So this, we don't know what this is, right? This has no authority either. This has no authority because this is in the same class as this. They're acronyms, and we have no closure on these acronyms, right? So just want you to let you know that Marilyn Mosby's name, or in quantum we say autograph, is not in this document. It may look like that's her name, but it's not her name. And I'm going to show you that at the end of the video. Okay, so here, this is also very important, right? Here, most people think that it is a continuation. This continues down here. It does not. First of all, you have a comma right here, and what does a comma do? It is separation. It is a partition, right? It is not a pause. They lied. to us in school. It is not a pause, it is a partition, okay? Furthermore, this is double spacing, right? And this violates the spacing rules of syntax, right? What it does, it breaks the continuance of evidence here. So this line is not attached to this line, right? So what do you have here? You have a line with fragments, right? You have a line with a fragment here, right? Actually, this line right here is I would say this is less than a fragment, right? Because there's a break in the continuance of evidence here because of these acronyms, right? But we're gonna keep this simple. Like, this is basic stuff, right? I mean, our audit on text get a lot. It gets more complex than what I'm going to show you. You know, it might be an awakening for some of you, but I'm sure for some of you it's not. All right, so you just have a fragment on this line and you have a fragment on this line, right? You have a fragment here, and you have a fragment here. And the problem is that these two lines are void because they're not independent clauses, right? They're fragments. And if you start reading fragments and try to make sense of them, what you're doing is you're reading Babel, right? You're reading Babel. Take a look and see what we did over here on some of these. Okay, so we keep it there. Okay, so let's move down some. Actually, let's go to the other page. Yeah, we're gonna get into some syntaxing of her name. We'll get into that later. So let's take a look right here. Let's take a look right here. This particular formulation. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have at least 5 negative conditions of state here. According to Kathleen Sears in the book Grammar 101, and I believe I have this book here. This particular book, I believe is page 188 and 189, talks about double negatives, and a lot of us have heard of double negatives. According to Kathleen Sears, if you have a double negative in the formulation of words, or what she refers to as a sentence structure, that sentence structure is in a state of denial, opposite, or opposition, right? That means that the words don't mean what you think they mean because you have a negative condition of state. And with a negative condition of state, specifically the formulation of words, there's no performance. You cannot contract. You have no power to contract if you use negative language. And this entire document by this attorney is negative, right? It is a smorgasbord of a negative condition of state. So what happens is if you have 2 or more negatives, you have everything, the whole entire thing is void because the text is in a state of denial, or it's in a state of opposition, or it's in a state of opposite, right? Or sometimes it could be all 3, right? But from the perspective of quantum, you only need 1 negative to void a sentence structure, right? Why would you need 2 negative? A negative is a negative, right? It voids a performance. It voids the word, right? Which has an effect on the rest of the text in that sentence structure or in that formulation of words, right? So let's take a look down here where it says the city of Baltimore provided payroll services, including a deferred. So here, that's a negative. That's also a negative. That's a negative. So this entire sentence structure would be void. And we can void this on multiple levels, right? Multiple levels. We're just doing the low-hanging fruit, right? To keep it simple. Now, there's a problem here because there's a spacing issue here, right? Even if this was done in a particular format, there's a way for you to take out these spaces, right? And make sure that it doesn't violate the spacing rules of syntax or styles. So as we can see, every line here is double spaced. And so what happens is the line here is not connected to this line, and it goes on and on and on throughout this entire document. So all you're left with is negative fragments, right? If it was a fragment, that would be a problem, but they're negative fragments, negative conditions of state, right? So we can void this whole entire thing, but before I move on, because I'm just going to go over this this one particular page, but nah, I'm sorry. I'm going to go over this particular page, and then we're going to basically run through the rest of the document quickly. So now let me point out something. So they're using Mosby here. Well, I'm reading this at a second grade reader level, right? That's called cognitive dissonance based on my conditioning in school and social engineering to make me think that these formulation of acronyms is a word. This is not a word, right? But we're going to see this formulation of acronyms here. So they have one formulation of acronyms that they want us to believe is her identity or her name in plain English, right? But in quantum, her autograph. And then we have one right here that they want us to believe is her autograph, right? These things must be name specific, right? And as I've said, this is not a representation of this, right? In plain English, in negative language, we're taught that this is a represent, but it's not. The hierarchy of linguistics says that this and this makes what's inside of it commentary and useless as far as it does not join with the rest of the text of the document, right? So we can avoid that. So that's one formulation of what they want us to believe is her so-called name. And we're going to go over that word name in a minute. And then we have another formulation here that they want us to believe is her name. So already we're looking at two different names, actually three, right? Because there's a full stop here, right? Which breaks the continuance of evidence. So based on, you know, this U.S. attorney wants us to read this as one name, but you have a full stop here. Although these are acronyms, right? Let's concentrate on this full stop. That's a partition. And then you have another one. So if we pay attention, what the attorney is really saying that this is one name, that's another name, this is a name, and then this is also a name, right? So we have those formulation of acronyms there. And as we continue, This is in a box, which cannot be considered. Nothing inside the box can be considered outside the box. This is void. This is completely void. Right? So as we continue, we see them using that formulation of letters to represent her name, right? And here we see that the formulations of acronyms, but except there's no middle initial or word, right? Before we had Marilyn J. Mosby, and now we have Marilyn Mosby, right? So that's another formulation of a name that they want us to recognize. And remember, names or autographs, if we're speaking from the perspective of quantum, must be specific. Just like if you go down to taxation and assessment and you want to incorporate, they're not going to give you a name that's already on the books, right? You must use your full legal name, or rather, they must use your full legal name if they want to prosecute you. Initialisms are not allowed, whether it's your middle name or not. So as they continue, so basically I'm showing you this because none of this is represent Marilyn Mosby. This is not how, this is not her full legal name, nor is it her last name. If you think that this is her last name, you again, with all due respect, you're reading at a second grade reading level. Okay. There's no charges here, right? I'm not even going to get into that, but this is void. This is void. There's a partition here, right? And then you got full stops, which separates everything here, right? So here you just got 18U, that's by itself. Then you got an S, that's by itself. Then you got a C, that's by itself. Then you got another breaking and continuance of evidence here with this character. So what's everything over here is over there by itself, and everything over here is by itself. There's no charges there. So here, they added an S to her name. Well, yeah. Oh, okay. This is written as improper case, right? But they've added an S to her name, an apostrophe and an S. That's not her name, right? This is not her full legal name, right? They must use your full legal name. So they keep on. Now look what they did here. Here, they spelled her name. Let me see. Right? You see the difference? These are all initialisms. And then here, they spelled her name different, right? So they want us, so what is this, number 3? Like the 3 different types of name? Maybe it's 4 or 5. I've lost count. And then they went back to using the acronyms, the void acronyms that has no closure, right? So we are at least at 4 or 5 names already that they're calling Marilyn Mosby. And I'm just trying to see if I see any other. Okay, here they put the J back, right? Now, this is important. Let me speak on this particular part right here. Now, this is important, right? If you're reading in fiction or reading at a second grade reading level, you would say from in or about July 2020 through in or about September 2000, 2020, in the District of Maryland and elsewhere, the defendant, and then if you're reading in fiction and reading at a second grade reading level, you would think that this is connected to that. And this is actually 3 words, right? Which it is not. Well, let's say they want us to believe that this is 2 words and an abbreviation, which it is not. All of these are abbreviations. The other thing is, this right here violates the spacing rules of syntax on 2 levels, right? It breaks the continuance of evidence here, and then also breaks the continuance of evidence here with this double spacing. So this right here is not connected to this line, right? You got 2 fragments here, right? And this fiction name is not connected to anything up here or down here. This is just by itself, right? But you would think that this is a sentence and this is included in a sentence if you're reading at a second grade reading level. This is fraud. This is perjury and a lot other violations of law. So as we continue, this entire thing is where there's not one legal or lawful sentence structure in this document. There are no facts in this document. Once we syntax this document, I can prove that there are 0 facts in this document. There are no charges in this document. There are no parties in this document, right? This document is one big illusion. This is a textual schematic illusion. Okay, let's look at this right here. Now, it says included, actually this would be, you got a double negative 1 word, so we don't even have to read anything else. This whole entire thing is void. But let me put this back so I can make my point, what I was trying to make here. If we read it in fiction or in plain English, it says included in the closing documents was a document titled, this breaks the continuance of evidence, but let's pretend that it doesn't, right? But it says titled, I don't know what this says. What is this? What does this say? And then, right, the reason why I showed you this is because this right here is a bunch of initialism, abbreviations, acronyms that breaks the continuance of evidence, right? This is not 3 words that says the title. This is a bunch of words, right? This first formulation is not even 3 words. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's at least 9 words there. Now this is very interesting, right? This part, straight fraud. This formulation says, and we're going to read this in fiction and pretend that this line is connected to that line. It says, if any of the information below is not true and the borrower cannot attest to, what does this mean? That's not a word. If you think that's a word, you're reading at a second grade reading level. This represents 3 words. So it says cannot attest to, right? So here is a break in the continuance of evidence. What's over here has nothing to do with what's over here, right? We also can consider that this right here is our bunch, it is a fragment. And then it skips, and then it continues with a bunch of acronyms that we have no idea what these mean. These are not words. You read them as words. You read them if you read these as words, you're throwing away your right against self-incrimination. What you're doing is joining with the perjury and the fraud, or more accurate, they are forcing you to join with perjury and fraud. Yeah, so as we continue, I'm just going to do like a basic, extremely basic look at this document. Yeah, like I said, all this is void. Right here, you got this particular content in parentheses, which is commentary and has no authority. Here you have a break in the continuance of evidence, right? So what's over here has nothing to do with over here. And each one of these words are independent and they're separated because of the comma. I'm sorry, because of the full stop, the period. So this is consistent through the document as well, right? Like that they start with a formulation of words and then they put a comma, and then this is at least a double space, and maybe a triple space, but at least a double space, maybe a quadruple space, but I know this is at least a double space, which voids the continuation of evidence. This and this are separated, and this and that is separated, right? This is separated from this, and this is separated from this line. But what's consistent through this document, they want us to read the line and then they put her name, what is it, double space or quadruple space down, and then put her fiction, right? Or not her fiction, but a fiction name here. But we can't even say this is a name, right? It just looks similar, but these acronyms, we don't know what these acronyms are, and they better be nouns. Each acronym better turn out to be a noun, or that's a problem. And we know that's her name because she don't have that many nouns in her name based on these acronyms. Right? So yeah, I just want you to take a look at that. So consistently, they do a fragment and then they put her name as if it is a continuation up here to down here, and then from here to down here. It is not. This line is separated from up here, and this is separated from here, right? This whole thing is void. Now let's get down to Mr. United States Attorney, Ich, right? Ich. That's what it says. Ich. Hope that's his name, but I thought his name was Eric. This says Ich. But anyway, I guess it's tomato, tomato, right? But what's not tomato, tomato is this right here is the problem. That's a negative. That's also a negative, right? This is a problem. And this is a problem for Mr. Ich. But this is also a problem. This is a problem, right? So this entire document is one big illusion. Means nothing, says nothing, unless you're reading at a second grade reading level. It is, and then when he put this into the court files, or I don't know what he's going to do with it, but if it's in the court record, this is evidence of perjury and fraud and a bunch of other things. So we're at the end. So let's go ahead and take a look at let's take a look at the name, the various names that they have, that they gave Marilyn Mosby. Right? So these are the different formulations of letters that they want us to believe is Marilyn Mosby, right? I'm going to add one. I'm not sure if she has a middle name or not, but if she did, I'm just going to start off this way. It would be written from a perspective of correct punctuation. Right? That is how you would write her name. Actually, we don't even need this. We need this line. It's okay to keep it there, but we would have to define what that line is before we use it. So I'll just leave it like that. So, but let's deal with what this attorney wrote in the document and want us to believe is her name. Or at least that's how it appears. So if you look here, you have one particular formulation of acronyms, right? Which I've syntax, and this syntax series is different from this syntax series. This is different from this, right? And this is different from this. And all three of these are different from this particular formulation of acronyms. So these are the four different formulation of acronyms that this guy has used in his document, right? And I believe even if you would say that, okay, this is her name, I think he only used this once, and it was basically on a line by itself. So it's not connected to anything on the text. So basically, she's not charged with anything in this document, right? He's not talking about her. He's talking about some fiction, 1, 2, 3, and basically in quantum, if your name is not properly punctuated, this is also a fiction. This is an adjective pronoun, right? This adjective is modifying this word into a pronoun, which is nothing, right? Because pronouns are undefined. They have no contract to define them. So there are no facts in this document, and he's using at least 4 different names in this document. Now let's